Rebel Devs Podcast, a show that challenges conventional thinking in the tech industry. Each episode features conversations with solutionists who have taken unconventional approaches to problem solving, pushing the boundaries of what's possible in their respective fields. Join the devolution.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jonah, and today I've got Tom and Maurice is back with us for a second episode. So, Maurice, what are we talking about today?
Well, life is like a box of chocolatey, right? So let's talk chocolatey.
Yeah, let's talk chocolatey. So for the uninformed listening, what is chocolatey?
Chocolatey is the package manager for Windows. If you're aware of things like apps or Yum on Debian-based or Red Hat-based machines, or maybe even Homebrew on macOS machines, those are package managers as well. And chocolatey is basically the equivalent for Windows.
Awesome. So what's your involvement with chocolatey then? Because I know you talk about it all the time to me.
Well, I am a community maintainer, so I maintain currently up around 230 different packages with close to 65 million downloads over all packages, I believe. And I'm a community moderator, so I moderate packages for maintainers who are new and submit a new package and moderate if they are okay and are all up to spec on what is required for a chocolatey package, and ensure that the things gets changed if they need to. And yeah, so that's what I do at Chocolatey.
Awesome. Yeah, I know that you got maintain the Veeam packages. If I remember right, there's been many a Veeam 100 summit where you've been working on, hey, we just got a new beta. Let me see if it breaks unattended installs and my chocolatey commands.
Yeah, that it does. And they most likely break in my experience. But yeah, it's not only Veeam packages. I'm doing packages like, let me think, I've got my SQL workbench. I got things like MongoDB, some of the JetBrains software suite. With so many packages. Too much to count on. I even wrote a extension for Chocolatey at one point, so you can mount ISOs now from Chocolatey to install directly from the ISO instead of extracting it first.
Nice. And I do think it's kind of fitting that someone who spends so much time maintaining community packages to make automated installs of things so easy is a leader of the Veeam user group Automation Desk.
Yeah, that's funny.
And a Hackathon co-founder.
Yeah, we are one too, right? Don't be shy. We did it together the first year, and Tom, who is in the call as well, joined us. That's a good thing this year. And Josh, who is not here.
Yeah, and I think this year was a raging success. The inaugural year was wonderful, and I think this year it was so much bigger, better, streamlined. So I'm looking forward to next year. What do you think we can look forward to next year in our hackathon?
The third annual Veeam Hackathon for starters. It will be the third edition. So yeah, what I kind of hope for is that we will have maybe a bit more teams, maybe a bit bigger, and maybe even have a nice project in the end.
Yeah, I don't know if we finalized our decision on the matter, but I know one thing we've been discussing is this year there was a pretty heavy imbalance as we tried to go more geographic based on the teams instead of global teams like the first year. We had a lot of leaders that signed up in the US and a lot of participants that signed up in Europe, and there was a pretty heavy imbalance. So I know one thing we discussed was, can we give teams some more creative control over their rosters next year? And rather than asking people to sign up as leaders to run teams, maybe what we do is we give the team some extra time to organize, and we allow them to kind of elect their own unofficial leader.
Yeah, that's something that we are looking into. And I think one of the good things from this year is that we had two amazing teams creating two, I think, really great applications. One even created at the start, I think, of a potentially mobile application for server-side console. So I think that will be something that could potentially be something used on a wider scale.
Yeah, I think it is very interesting how they both took two almost identical problems, or really the same problem, that being what's an easy way for us to view metrics into our RPOs and get just a quick glance or a sort of dashboard into our Veeam backup and replication ecosystem, and how differently they approached the solution. I know one team heavily focused on service provider console, like you said. Another one, I think, did it all based off of Veeam.
That's correct. Yeah. And I think Veeam is still something that a lot of companies should be using, but it gives also a lot of insight. So if you can leverage that information that's already there and use that for your good in a single view on either a web application or a mobile application, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm hoping we'll see a much more massive adoption of Veeam by service providers, because I know recent releases of Service Provider Console have actually integrated now with Veeam, where Veeam alarms will show as alarms in Service Provider Console, which means any companies using Service Provider Console to give customers dashboards, or even using that as a data aggregator to feed their own custom portals, can now theoretically present Veeam alarms into those portals.
But all of this is not something that can be used within Chocolatey, unfortunately.
Yeah, but could they do Choco install Veeam Service Provider Console or Choco install Veeam?
Yeah, well, not directly like that, but yes, you can install Veeam and Service Provider Console using Chocolatey. Veeam Agent or Veeam Backup Replication is there as well. Unfortunately, I have some trouble doing stuff for Recovery Orchestrator, because you need to download a massive file to get it working, and duplicates are obviously not allowed. So that's a bit of a challenge.
Right. What about Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365? Does it get any chocolatey love?
Yeah, there is some love there as well. I need to do some rework with the latest V8, because there's some extra dependencies like the NUT server or the requirement for Postgres and some of the configuration. So I need to rework those packages, but that's something I can hopefully do soon.
So breaking down Chocolatey a little bit more, I kind of think about the world of installing something next, finish, answer files, and terrible days of MSI installers and answers and whatnot. I mean, is that really what Chocolatey is doing for us, Maurice? Is we're kind of slipstreaming installs? I just want to go a little bit deeper for those that don't know anything about Chocolatey.
What Chocolatey does basically is maintain packages. Chocolatey does not maintain software. That's a big difference. Chocolatey maintains a package, and a package can maintain software, or can install a license, or can just set a register setting. It's not a software manager like Winget, for example, which is Microsoft's answer to Chocolatey, basically. But Chocolatey is already there for, I think, 13 years now, and Winget is here for 2 or 3 years, I believe. But yeah, Chocolatey maintains a package, and that could be a script doing something, and that in a lot of cases that can be software. But yeah, what it does, it provides answers to an installer to automatically install your software in a repeatable way. If there's no required parameters, like, for example, if you want to install Google Chrome, you just type in Choco install Google Chrome, and it installs Google Chrome for you, without the requirement for you to say next, finish, or go out to that website and search, where can I find Google Chrome? Or paint.net, for example. If you want to install paint.net, you probably type in paint.net because you want to search for it, but paint.net is actually also a domain name. And if I'm correct, that what is or was for a painting company, and not for paint.net, the application that you want to use. You needed to go to get paint.net because the domain was already claimed. And then you download it only to find out that you have a dependency on .NET Framework version, I don't know. So you need to go out to the Microsoft website, download .NET Framework, and install that .NET Framework. And then you can install Paint.NET. But if you say Choco install Paint.NET, the Paint.NET package has a dependency on the right version, or the right minimum version of the .NET Framework. It downloads and installs .NET Framework, and then install Paint.NET for you without you having to do all those things.
So I know you or at least personally, when I've used Chocolatey, it's been called from PowerShell. So does it work on only Windows, or is there support for operating it on Linux as well?
There is support for operating it on Linux, but the operating on Linux is only for creating packages. It's not for installing packages, because it's the Windows package manager, so it doesn't make any sense to have it running on Windows or Mac OS.
Okay. So just as Veeam continues to shift more and more to Linux, for example, with like version 13, we're not necessarily going to see, a Choco install Veeam backup and replication for Linux.
Well, no, not from Chocolatey, but there will probably things like a Debian or an RPM package that you will install at that point. However, I do think that a lot of things will be hybrid, so to speak. So it will be either Windows or Linux.
Right.
I think that will be, at least for the foreseeable future, that there will be both versions available.
And I'm assuming here, since Chocolatey is called from PowerShell, or at least in my case, I tend to call it from PowerShell, it can probably be combined with other automation tools, right? Like, let's say hypothetically, I'm working to automate my server deployments and I'm building Ansible playbooks. Could I use Choco install inside those Ansible playbooks?
Yes, but my advice would be to use the Chocolatey Ansible module and use win_Chocolatey, and now you provide your package name with parameters to install a Windows package directly from Ansible. And if I'm correctly, there is DSC support, desired state configuration from Windows. There is support for Puppet, Chef. There are so many capabilities or compatibilities directly from different pieces of software. But Ansible is one of them. And you can find that all on chocolatey.org website. And there is even a nice wizard. So if you go to a package page, you can click on how you want to install it. And you can click on, for example, Ansible, and it will generate the basic configuration that you will need to install that package.
Obviously, your time is limited. You can only do so much. But, I know Veeam increasingly is putting hot fixes out there, especially now that they've got the bug bounty program. So how does that impact your work with Chocolatey? Are you finding yourself having to regularly update the Chocolatey packages for Veeam components to address those hot fixes? Or are you kind of just leaving it on the user to manually install those hot fixes?
It depends. If Veeam generates a new ISO with all the bits and pieces in there, that can be packaged and created as new packages. However, if there is a small hotfix, like we recently saw for Enterprise Manager, which is, I think, started out as a private hotfix and then was made public, that's not slipstreamed into an ISO. So maintaining those kinds of packages is challenging, to say at best, because that will mean that you would have to create a new package specifically for that version. And the use case and the amount of people that will in the end use that is so limited that it's a lot of work for no result, basically.
Right. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised to hear that they're not necessarily slipstreaming those updates because, traditionally releases I've seen in the past, like you said, it starts off as a private fix, then it goes to a public release, but usually it's like hey, if you already have this version installed, here's the exe or the MSP file, because I know Service Provider Console does it differently than VBR. So, they use MSIs and MSP files to patch. And then, eventually it's within a day or two, typically of the public release, I usually see hey, here's an updated ISO with, a new date stamp appended at the end.
Well, creating a package for your own private environment is quite easy. There is so many information out there that how you can create your own Chocolatey package. And if you have your own Nexus server, for example, you can just push it into your Nexus server and use that Nexus server as your package source, or even a simple file share can be used as a package source. So if you have that a private fix for your Veeam component for all your Veeam agents, and you have 50 Veeam agents deployed using Chocolatey, you could create a patch package for yourself and slipstream that update into that package and update all your 50 machines using your automation tool. Or if you're a business customer, You could even use a thing like Chocolatey Central Management if you have a business license for Chocolatey, because you can create automations within that piece of software to automatically deploy software onto a machine or even update software on a machine.
So it's kind of almost Chocolatey starting to function as something like an RMM or Intune or group policy at that point. Is that a good way of phrasing that?
No, I don't see Chocolatey being a replacement for an RRM or Intune or whatnot. Yes, it can do stuff. Well, you can leverage Chocolatey using your GPOs, and you can leverage Chocolatey from Intune, but I don't think out of the box or as it is today, it's a replacement for any of that.
Okay. I keep telling you this. I need to finally actually commit to it. I really need to learn more about Chocolatey because I think there's a lot that I do that I would benefit from leveraging it more.
Yeah, but also it's not only for business users. I think private users or home users can benefit from it as well. For example, I got in touch with Chocolatey a couple of years. I think it's about 6 years now, when my coworker, who was legally blind at that time, still is still legally blind, but at that time it could still see something. But he was unable to install software because text-to-speech on installers is a pain. And we all know the different kinds of installers that you have all over the place. Like for the oldies, maybe you remember the blue background installer with the name on top, or the MSI installers can be so different for every single one of them. And apparently all of them, those buttons are just called button and then a random number. So it's not readable basically for someone who is blind. And if you're just able to install Google Chrome or update Google Chrome by just Choco upgrade Google Chrome, and then you have the latest version of Google Chrome installed on your device, that makes it way easier for someone who is not able to see a lot of things on your device to install software. So it's not only for business users that use Veeam or tech nerds like some of us, but it's also for people who like to have a way to automatically install software and automatically update those installed packages.
All right. So then you said there's a Choco upgrade command. And I know we talked earlier about how Choco is essentially, like an apt for Windows. So then is there just a generic like Choco upgrade that will go out and pull all packages rather than just doing them one at a time?
There is a Choco upgrade all, and that upgrades all installed packages. It checks on your configured sources if there is an update for that particular package. And if that's the case, then it will download that package and install it and run the script inside.
So in a sense, it's even more streamlined than something like apt then, because, obviously apt, I have to do like an apt get update before I do an upgrade. But it sounds like this does both commands as one.
Yes, because there is no update, because apt uses a local caching of your repository files. And same goes out for Yum. But like Homebrew doesn't do that, for example. So if you use apps to update a package, you need to update your locally cached repository files, because those are small databases basically. And then it needs to process that database to figure out what's available and whatnot. For Chocolatey is using NuGet as their delivery system basically. So it has some extras in there, but basically it's just NuGet.
Okay. Now that I'm a little more familiar with, because I've always been in the fun world of, PowerShell install module and all that fun jazz.
Yeah, it has some extra files in the NuGet package, like a Choco install and Choco uninstall and a Choco before upgrade .ps1. And those three files basically are being run by Chocolatey to do the thing that they need to do. And depending on your operation, it will run a script or not. So it will not run the uninstall script if you install something, but it will run the before update script before doing an update. And it will always run install or on install and update.
Great. So I'm not just learning about Chocolatey, but I'm showing my, beginner intermediate level skills and understanding of both NuGet and package managers for Linux and Linux as a whole. Wonderful.
Yeah, well, package managers are a complex way on the back end. Honestly, you have a lot of things like you need to sign a package, you need to ensure that it has the right checksum and whatnot. But for an end user, it's just something, you plop in a command and it just does the thing with the thing.
Fair enough. Yeah, it sounds like all of this is definitely, like you're saying, something that looks very simple to the user, but is very complex behind the scenes to make it easy for the user.
Yes, exactly. Aside from creating the package and testing the package, if you submit it, it goes to a lot of validation and verifications and even virus scanning before it's even available for anyone to download. So it will verify if everything in the files are set correctly. It will validate if it can install, and then it goes out to virus scanning and uses VirusTotal to scan basically the files that are being downloaded by the package on several virus scanners to ensure that it's a safe file for you to digest on your machine.
I would say that I wish Windows Update or Control Panel made it this simple, but I guess that's kind of the point of Chocolatey, isn't it?
Yeah, basically. One other thing that I think is good to mention is Chocolatey doesn't, or the maintainer should not make any changes to the installers. So it shouldn't matter if you download that installer on your own, verify the checksum and run the installer, or you use the Choco install. The Choco install should basically just download the installer, verify that the installer that's being downloaded is actually the installer that was intended to be downloaded with a checksum. Usually it's SHA-256. I think it's set correct.
I think so.
Yeah. And then it runs that installer based on parameters that you as a package maintainer have provided to that package and some command line input from the end user if required. Now we're talking a lot about command line, but I do know that there are a lot of people out there who still like to do click, click, click. There is a Chocolatey GUI that helps you get an overview and install packages for the people who are not so comfortable using a command line installer on command or PowerShell like you already suggested, because it's not only PowerShell. It can run in the good old command as well.
Well, I think you've won me over. I've been that guy over the last, however many years now since it came out, that's been happy to slowly see more and more stuff move over to the Microsoft Store on his Windows computer because it's easier to, just one-click download and have it all auto-update. But yeah, sounds like if I can't find something on the Microsoft Store, I'll be checking for it on Chocolatey now.
There's so much out there, and I'm not really sure currently how many packages there are out there currently. But yeah, I think there's close to 12,000 different packages out there currently from the top of my mind.
That's a good amount.
Yeah. No, I just checked, it's close, a bit over 10,000 unique packages with, well, that's a way too big number, 3 trillion, I think, downloads over all of those packages currently.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. And yeah, for me, I basically install everything using Chocolatey, and if it's not there, I create a package, and if it's possible to submit it to the community repository, I submit it to the community repository.
Well, we'll see. After everything I've heard and the discussions we've already had, I might be joining your ranks in that regard here in the near future.
That will be great.
No, it definitely sounds something that's usable over the old school ways of doing things. And I was sitting here thinking, oh, maybe just use my PowerShell. And now that it understood a little bit more, it can totally be added on. So, gentlemen, any last thoughts before we call it quits for the day? Chocolatey, hackathons, life musings in general?
Well, I have more a question for Maurice because I'm going to put him on the spot. So I know we've been busy with the hackathon, but in the past, if I remember right, you've done some special stuff on the Automation Desk for Chocolatey Month, which is December?
Yeah, the December Chocolatey Month.
So anything planned for this upcoming December that, at time of recording is in about 2 weeks?
Yeah, well, if that will be the case, then I would probably have problems. So for now, it's not something I can share. So maybe not.
I mean, I know I've been keeping you very busy with the hackathon, so
Yeah.
you haven't had much time to plan much else, like any special surprises.
All right. Well, folks, thanks for joining us today. Those of you out there listening, always check back for us. Remember, we absolutely always publish, sometimes on a Friday, randomly, no schedules. So just like, share, subscribe, as we like to see. Thank you, Maurice, for joining us today. Jonah, as always, it's been fun, and we're going to play ourselves out here.
Whether you're a seasoned solutionist or just starting out, the Rebel Devs podcast is a must listen. So join us. Comment, share, and subscribe. Be part of the Rebel Devs.